to the Historical Society. This is part of our speaker series, and our speaker series is probably the flagship of all of our programming that we do, because it actually has people who have participated in the community and tell their story. Tonight, I'm very excited to have Dave Brunette talking about skiing in Elliot Lake and the whole history of it. And after, by all means, you're more than welcome to look at the display, except don't shake anything. Okay. So on that note, I'd like to introduce Dave. And Dave has been a long-time volunteer in the community and always great to work with. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie. I'm not sure you can hear me properly. This is amazing. I knew we'd have a good turnout, but this is awesome. If you can, go ahead and sit down wherever you gotta go. Yeah, I'll let you get settled in. So I'd like to start by acknowledging a couple of milestones here. I did ask George Palm to come to this event. He was unable to, but we also have another audience member that is in the older history books from the early 60s, and she's here today, Wally Augustine. Not to age you, but I think you're in the Queen section of that. But again, it's almost everybody here has been involved with the ski hill in Elliot Lake in one form or another. You came here as kids, you grew up here, now your kids are growing up here, and that's what Mount Dufour is. We're one big happy family. We have little fights back and forth, but it all works out. We haven't divorced each other yet, so everything's good. On that note, we're going to start. There's quite a bit of material to go through, and I want you to really absorb all this stuff because we have 465 pictures to show. And there's a real special treat that you will see. You're going to be in awe once we play it. So at this point, the 2-page campaign, that's what we're starting with. So this is the what they call the long rope toe. Do we need lights shut down, sorry? Yeah. Okay, so this is what they call the long rope toe, and it's still that path, and you can see the valley in there, up to the center side. It's still in existence, that path. Kids call that skinny, and they still come down. Okay, so this is the Elliot Lake Ski Club. Its roots in the early development of Elliot Lake. As early as 1957, a group of enthusiastic individuals, headed by Ingo Feisel, Gerhard Anders, had cut trails and runs on a hill at Panel 9. I don't know where this is, we don't have a lot of records of that. So these two gentlemen had recently immigrated from Austria. Ingo Feisel had instructed at Camp Fortune just prior to coming to Elliot Lake. We're talking 1957, the town was brand new, right? The club first became a formal organization, which elected its officers in 1958. At this time, the club had cleared a short run at Sheriff Lake and operated a small rope toe there. Following this, the local group started a commercial enterprise at the present site here. The hill is named Mount Dufour in memory of one of the group's founders, Ernie Dufour, who died during the time he was on the hill doing some clearing. The group constructed a chalet, which was still in use until '78, and then they also installed a rope, which was operated until '73. At approximately the same time, the Elliot Ski Club also set up operations adjacent to the commercial operation. There was 2 ski hills running out of this site. Very confusing at the beginning until we started discovering how it all shaped down. Separate operations altogether. The facilities consisted of a short rope toe, a clubhouse, and lighting for night skiing. Did you get these two?
Yeah, sir.
On the second, at this time, it was still independent from the commercial interest. In 1965, it's actually a typo there because we discovered it's actually 1968. the Elliot Lake Ski Club purchased the assets of the Elliot Lake Recreation Committee and took over operation of the existing hill as it is in the present day. The Elliot Lake Ski Club, which operates Mount Dufour Ski Area, is a nonprofit volunteer organization which functions to provide low-cost skiing opportunities for the people of Elliot Lake at berthed up 100 meters and one up to 800 meters. It operates from mid-December to mid-March, depending on snow conditions. No snowmaking at this time, obviously. The area is consistently well-groomed. We operate a T-bar, which gives us a capacity of 600 fuel per hour. New long chalet, which was constructed, which gives ample room for social events. Future plans are to widen the beginners runs, increase tow capacity, complete snowmaking equipment. We expect this to be available May, Monday, and Tuesday, and we would then be in a position to depend on good ski conditions throughout the season. We extend a welcome to anyone who is interested in skiing. This is a pic from 1959, Lackmore Ski Area. Lackmore Milliken, it's kind of a little bit confusing, but it's on the backside. You guys know where Lackmore Milliken is? Sheriff Lake's back there, it's the backside of that. So, Nancy Jo actually claimed, is she here tonight? No, I didn't invite her, but, I did invite her. Might have came out like I didn't invite her. Nancy Jo, yes, I skied out there in high school on the ski team, and we skied at Lackmore on Sundays. Our parents would drive us to the Milliken Mine Road, up Blackmore Gate. The road was going up straight up to the fire tower, turn off the top, we turn left, head down towards Blackmore Mine town site, which was on Sheriff Lake. Halfway down, we drop out by the side of the road, put our skis on, and head out to the hill and short trail where we came up partway down the ski hill. We would then ski down to the bottom on Sheriff Lake. There was a rope tow on the shore and takes to the top. We grew the trail by sidestepping up and down. That's all we ever did as kids, right? Sidestepping right towards prom. We picked up our parents and headed back to town for dinner. The high school ski club members took turns hosting at best speed, great fun. Okay, so this Cliffville Prairie, maybe I'll just read it off of that. Cliffville Prairie, unfortunately, we were lucky to have Cliffville Prairie on the lake. Spent a lot of time, very good representative on the lake. Passed away about a year and a half ago, I believe, out west. But his roots were deeply into this Elliot Lake and Mount Dufour. So his story goes like this. Written by Shannon Prairie. So my father, Cliffville Prairie, he was an original pioneer, resident and business owner in Elliot Lake for approximately 30 years. He arrived in Elliot Lake in the winter of 56, 57. He is currently in the 90th year of his life and feels it is important to tell the story of the founding of the ski hill and its important role the gentleman Ernie Dufour played in it. Here, in his own words, is a story he remembers. I am writing this article to set the record straight on how the naming of Mount Dufour came about. There seems to be several versions, but I can attest to the fact that I was there when the mountain and ski hill was named. There was a very humble gentleman, his name was Ernie Dufour. He was a tenant of mine on Timber Road. Cliffville Prairie had a shop there. I was a Ford dealer on Timber Road, and we had several buildings that we rented out. Ernie Dufour was an excellent tradesman in sharpening saws and anything that needed sharpening. He had machines and was set up for doing business with the mines and the local business people. He lived on my property, and he also had his son Gaston, and that's pretty good, Gaston, who was a very nice man also. One day, Ernie came over to see me and said that he wanted to start skiing along the lake because he felt he wanted to pay back something to the town, which had been so good to him in his endeavors. He asked me how he could start going about that. Neither Ernie nor his son even skied, but Ernie told me he just wanted to give something back to the town. I don't know where Ernie was from. He was very French, I'll tell you that. Slight built Frenchman, and most of his friends were all French Canadians. He asked me for my advice and what he should do. I gave him, as my knowledge, like help him out. As Elliot Lake was having problems keeping the lines open, the Ontario government decided to help Elliot Lake keep going with establishing a minimum security youth sentence in jail. This has been documented many times at court line. It was Ernie that went to the government and got permission to use prisoners as laborers on the ski hill for clearing stones and trees. They were helped by the guards at the jail to keep control of prisoners. Everybody, every day for quite a long time, must pick up the prisoners up and then take them to Mount Dufour to clear the hill. Ernie also had a whole bunch of friends that were French Canadian, the same as he was. He recruited them to help run the ski hill, collecting tickets, keeping the tows going, and general repairs. They were the original guys that volunteered all their help, along with all the skiers and other business people on Elliot Lake to get the ski hill going. One that comes to mind, who also was my best friend, was Rene Fabry, Mr. Fabry. Rene Fabry would donate a skidder and some professional tree cutters to clear the hill at no charge. Again, we're talking in the early 60s here. For the ski hill, and he was very generous over all the years. Also, we have a lot of help from Lions. I remember going to Denison to get the big drag wheel built for the rope tow, and then we went to Algoma to supply of a brand new rope for us. And it was people like this who chipped in and helped to make the ski hill what it is today. Other notable ones were a good friend of mine, Joe Hammond, senior, who was an electrician, and Joe was an expert rope splicer. Also, Bob Sterling, little typo there in Sterling, was one of the people who came up to splice the rope whenever it got frayed. We also had carpenters like Jake Seidel, who worked underground at the mines as a carpenter, and would come down on the weekend and help with a chalet and help with tows. There was no way that people that would volunteer in their time. They are too numerous for me to remember right now. All I know was the ski was a wonderful thing for me with my family and 8 children. All my children learned to ski on Mount Dufour and have been doing so ever since, all their lives. It was a wonderful place to go on weekends. Ernie Dufour was a very humble man while he was working to get the ski hill going, of course. I would see him on a daily basis, and he started coming up to me and complaining that he had chest pains. This is where it gets a little tough. Then he would open up his jacket and show me that he had taken his belt off and his pants and put it around his chest as tight as possible because he was complaining of pain in his chest to go away. He felt a lot better when he tightened the belt. I guess this is what they did back then. Little did anybody know that he was actually having a heart attack. Of course, I told him to go to the doctors, but within 2 or 3 days, he had passed away. It shows you how unselfish a man he was. That's a pretty small statement there. He actually gave up his life so people like me and my kids could ski and think he should be honored. We did so by naming the ski hill that after him for sure. I think we should find a big salt lake somewhere and have bring Dufour sing, bring across and place on the ski hill for putting the community and others first before his health. Here's a picture of what we had before, but now there's a second rope tow. They have what they call the small rope tow that went to the first landing, and the taller one that went to the top. A little bit of a different angle. See the little canvas tent here? Just a little warming tent. A picture of something similar. Okay, the hill rainbow. This thing's amazing. When we started, can you pause for now? Yeah. I'll try to go through this quick, but we're going through these notes. These books were handed to me between George Palm and Helen Pecor, and they were in a box, and I basically had enough time to look at this, threw it aside and dealt with it. Until sometime last year, we started digging into it, and I started realizing what I was given. And we had the actual minutes from 1962 with names. Father Stadnick, John Keast, Isaac, Bill Black, Paul Latark, Bruno Augustine, Ski Patrol, Cliff LaPerry, Planning Director, Ken Webster, Gene Ball, Treasurer, Ryan Hurst, Peter Mongrain. The names are endless in here, and some of them are actually still around. But 1962 minutes, and we have it all the way up to 74. We don't keep minutes like that now, I'll tell you. It's very detailed. There's way too much in here. It shows even back then. You got to remember, it's 1960s. They had these runs that they had, and they were not really set up the way they are now. Kind of all over the place. The flats, the coffee run, the bunny run, the shoosh, the combat power, Danes Peak, which is still here now, not face at all. I don't know where you guys get face from. It's called Danes Peak. Put that in your brain. The shoot. Here's some other name dropping we're going to do. We got, this is a membership list with Bruno Augustine at the top. I don't know if you see all this, but Dubinsky, Fisher, Forsythe, Brzezinski, Hammond, McBurney, Cliff LaPrairie, Joe and Cleta Sarich, Mama St. Carchin, Doreen Staden, I guess they talk. Mr. the Reverend from Anglican Church talking here, and was president for about 8 to 10 years when I got transferred. Did we have another piece of that? No, wait. This is 1963, a letter to the Department of Lands and Forests, which is now under honor. That lithograph paper, it's here later on. It's in amazing shape. We found it in a binder, and that's what we got. Look at that. It's amazing. We basically scanned it. Anyhow, they have to pay for the rights for these timber rights to cut the trails at the ski hill. Inspector's report, 1963. So many, I don't know if we had the bottom part of it, but so many deficiencies. It was, yeah. The lift inspector came and, they were shut down so many times. J.P. Gagnon, do you remember J.P. Gagnon? Yeah. Right? He lived beside two Hames. Beside your mom. J.P. Gagnon in that brown brick house. And his wife worked at the TD Bank, correct? Lee's? Right? So that, he was involved back then. J.P. Gagnon. I think I'm not sure if he's with us anymore much. I can't speak for that company. Again, we're trying to do as much as we can accurately by what we have in front of us, right? Citizens, so again, this ski hill was called the LA Ski Citizen, was run by the LA Citizens Committee for tourism development, leased. And then I need to kind of touch on this. So the early Dufour operation was running here, and those pictures that I showed you. There was a whole other rope tow set up. It didn't go very high, over by where the garages are right now. And it went up to about where the train park is, and there's going to be evidence of that later, showing with a rope tow. And there's old lights back there, and we believe they skied down to the creek at Horn Lake. 2 separate operations, all together. But over time, that ski club called the LA Ski Club was trying to take over this one, and they leased it for a while because I think this one they were having a hard time running it, and this club was getting a little bit bigger for some reason. I'm guessing. But over time, they tried to, they did eventually buy it. Mr. Bollier, John Isaac, I don't know if you remember that name. Patty and Tim Stewart are actually living at 68 Axsmith, right across from my house, 71 Axsmith. And John Isaac, I remember him very well, him and his wife. He was the treasurer at the time, and that's his signature. And you guys are living in this house, 68 Axsmith. Mr. Bollier, there was 3 of them. Arthur Wallard, which is Verge's father-in-law, right? Okay, they got that right? Right. And Bollier and Belliard, I think there was. So again, we have you can look at this later. We've got the lawyer's document from 1968 of the indenture through Bill Brown's office that shows the sale transfer from the LA Lake Citizens Committee to the LA Ski Club for $500 and all the chattels. Rope tow, the old chalet that was here, and anything else that went on. Amazing stuff that we found. Okay. This is a surprise. This is from the Uni family that was given to us. This is in the early 60s, 64, 65s, ballpark, we're thinking. Best part is it's sponsored by the bats. It's got like bats on it. You're going to see some rope tows. You're going to see a rope tow. This area is down by the garage. You're going to see rope tows up to the upper right-hand side. 2 separate operations. Look at the cars. This is how they say this is gold, Jerry, gold. Look at this thing. That's the way up to the terrain park. That's all it's going. Up to the terrain park, that's it. Okay, and you're gonna see another shot over here to the far right. You're gonna see people going up, way up. Now, keep an eye. There's a fence here coming up. It's in the next shot. Stadnik, Krasinski, Webster. You kind of, I don't know if you can proportion where that is. That's the family trail that's going down there. That's not, wasn't even really cut right now, mind you. Again, that's over by the garages. See that way over there? See up there? There's guys going up to the very top. That's a valley. So there was actually 3 rotos being run at one time and 2 separate ski operations. Why that was, I don't know. Look at the cars. The parking lot was much different. We don't know if this was bamboo or sticks or what they were, but not a lot of There's a really cool shot near the end. You're going to see the gentleman at the finish line, and I'll point him out. It's coming up soon.
Steep troll.
There's a steep troll there, brown and yellow. There's a gentleman here that has a radio in his hand. Look at that. He's got a radio and the antenna's 8 feet long. It's a radio or a timing device. It's something, that's kind of sophisticated for the 60s, right? So that deserved from the Udi family a big round of applause. So we're going to call this Jamie's treasure. So Jamie, since he's been back in the town, has been discovering some old stuff. This is still up there right now. An old ship wheel. And then when the lights are back on, there's a ship wheel here. Just a tire wheel. It's all it is with a little mount on it. How can the inspector pass that? More stuff going on here. The frames, some more stuff is still up there. It's up at the very top of what they call the high roto, the long roto at the top. Here's a little story of what year was that again, Jamie?
1964.
Out of the New York Times about Elliot Lake. Okay, so we were going through, you guys all know, the old timers going through ups and downs and busts and booms and whatever else. And this was a bust and boom thing, and they were looking at, what can we do to change Elliot Lake? So it mentioned about developing tourism and whatnot. So
business is off in Elliot Lake Shopping District, and there are more parking meters than there are parked cars. So
1966. So we have this complete document here. Again, you can look at it. Always talk about expansion, right? So in 66, there was a lot of talk about going back and forth. Like, do we stay on the south side of the ski hill? Do we go to the north side? We got southern exposure here when the snow melts, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of discussion was way back in the day. And it was a complete study done. And there's a report there, and there's a map over there that I've actually found today. And take a look at it, it's amazing. So this is our existing ski area here, and they were looking at putting this again in the 60s. Don't T-bar right here. Ground roto still. They were going to put a T-bar there, a chairlift. I don't know if you can see that, and hard to see from where you are probably, but there's a third roto. Those yellow lines represent beginners areas. There was 3 lifts. Good thing they didn't do that. We'd never be able to walk. Old picture of inside the old chalet, sorry, that was here. I'm not sure if that's booze in the back. I don't know, there's lots of stuff going on there. Another lands and forests. There was a fire here in 64, 65, and the Department of Lands and Forests was looking to recoup the money from us to put out the fire. I don't know if they paid it back. This is waiting for my time. I was responsible for that. This is from Mike Pecor's and Helen Pecor's treasures. these are the old crests. I have them on display as well. When you got, just like best analogy is Girl Guides and Boy Scouts, they all have those crests on them. So when you got your membership in 1967 or 68, they changed the color. That was your crest, and that means you were a member. You wore that on your jacket, you saw it on your jacket. Transfer property, and so something similar with Father Static involved at that time. Because the other one was the lease. That's right, yeah. This is the actual transfer for $500.
They call it the Elliot Lake Ski Slopes back then, is how it's referred to.
Yeah. 1969, Mike Pecor and possibly Doug. Don. So you're right, sorry, John. And again, this side, there's a road way over there. Minutes of 1969, Static, Jeff Knight, John, supposed to be John Knight, George Palm, Ursula Schultz. Remember that name? Yeah. It shows, so what they got. Actually, something again, read through, you lose stuff, you find stuff. Well, there's a lodge is mentioned here because they had an old bombardier that was basically one of those tough machines with a winch on it. They thought they could pack the hill with it. They bought it for $1,400. That was a lot of money back then. They had to give a loan. There's evidence of that. Again, you go through some of these minutes. There's a mention of lights. Lighting was a big thing back then. Like all these places were lit up with, by the way, with generators. We found evidence that, I think, you stop for a second.
Yeah.
The Rod and Gun Club, I don't know if the old timers remember this, and correct me if I'm wrong. So the Rod and Gun Club at one time was operating at Westview Park. That makes sense? And there was no power there, and they had a generator there. In the wintertime, they pulled their roots out, and then eventually the town asked them to go to the location, obviously. But that generator that Rod and Gun Club had came here to operate the totals because there was no proper hydrant here at the time. Hydrant came in later, but they were running the generators. Another fire, this is the one, this is some arson, some vandals got into our hydro shack, which was at the top corner of the Bunny Hill. There used to be a white building there, and our hydro used to come in there. I'm talking, well, was it around 68? I think it killed that season. I think they had a really hard time. So, and this is just after they bought these assets, and what they did was they got in the transformer, they stole all the copper out of it, which goes on today. People are stealing copper, right, and wiring and stuff. Another article about the same thing, out of the Sioux Star, 1968. This is the loan that they got, 68 Asmith, who lives there. The Stewarts, who are a big part of the ski family before now. John Isaac, and they got a loan and they put the $500 transfer to it. Okay, now we get into a little bit big time here because we finally have some letterhead. That's a new letterhead. Notes about the, and I do believe Pat Sterling might be able to attest to this if she remembers that the Elliot Lake Center had, and in continuing education, had printing machines and all this other stuff. Where are you? Yeah. And I think Bob was involved with getting this to that. It's all brown. Everything Sioux College was brown anyhow, right? All those buildings were brown. And I do believe it just looks like it belongs out of Sioux College to me. It really does. Because Bob Sterling, his name was in there, sorry. So there was 1970, Bob Sterling, Jeff Knight, Saturday, Howard Others, Al Davis. Minutes of that meeting, so I'm not sure if there's any highlights in here, question about the future. Oh yeah, in 70, so again, lots of back and forth, do we stay here? Do we move somewhere else? They're having bad winters, good winters, summer exposure, snow melting, not having long seasons. I don't know, did the season last a month and a half, 6 weeks maybe? I don't know, maybe, but winters were much different back then too, so maybe it was different storage. 1970, again, the blue building that housed the Roto and Bruno's would be all that brush you see all the bush there, coming down there, because that tool is going up. Where the kids come down and fall asleep. This is the entire Pecor crew, Mike, Doug, and Don. There's Mike again. I actually remember myself, that ski rack that was here was permanent. It was like a horse, horse saddle. It never moved, it was just there. What's this? So this is 72. They were looking to improve, and then they went back and forth and decided, okay, yeah, we're probably going to stay here. We're going to look at putting in a T-bar because the road toe was breaking down all the time, had to be spliced all the time, the whole 9 yards. And this was a letter to them looking for permission to acquire a lease of land. Different locations. That red line was the proposed lift line. Well, a little note here. See these little, I don't know if you see, everybody can see, but there's little switchback roads here. Here, and here, very top. So 4 or 5 of them. So, McFadden, I'm going to say McFadden Lumber, because the logging history proves that as well. They logged some of this area because those roads are still there. So instead of, obviously you can't go up these hills, they do like they do everywhere else, they do switchbacks. They drive like this, they go left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right, until they get up to the top, and then they cut all that stuff and do their thing. So some of those roads are still there, and they're there. This is up at the get off of the old high road toe. Seeing his old video.
This section of the trail, our old rope tow section. Here's the others on trail.
Yeah, lots of old memorabilia, anchoring systems, cables. This stuff has been here since the 60s. Buried and some of it not buried. Jamie kind of got some stuff out of the ground. There's cables all over the place in there. If a moose got in there, he'd be in trouble, for sure. There's cables and anchoring systems. See that? Look at this thing here.
So this is what you would have seen.
That rock, I believe, might have been used as an anchoring point for the tensioning device.
This big anchor stone. And then you would have taken one of these runs down here, which lead you sort of the back of valley, but that funnels down on the main.
So the valley trail is down that, which you can see there. The top of the trail is that through the trees, you see that steeper section of it.
Yeah, pretty cool if you look down here.
And there's our mascot, Charlie. And
Some of the old.
that's what you got.
That's our end of the 60s section.
That's the end of the 60 section. Okay. That's not bad. We're doing good.
We're going to be wrong pace.
Okay,
We're on pace.
we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so now we've got someone first and then run this. The George story?
Yeah, you George.
Okay.
You need light or what?
I'm gonna go. No, I think I'm all right. Okay, so we asked George Baum to also put some notes together on his recollection of George started. He wasn't here from the beginning. He states that, but I'll keep going here. So he calls it the up and down, up and down. I don't know how or who started the ski club, but skiing started at Sheriff Lake. Some of this might be a bit repetitive, but I need to read this. It's important. Which is located on Lago property. I never visited there in the wintertime, but hiking there in summer shows that the runs were very short. Cliff Perry gave me the old tow mechanism many years ago that I believe may have been used at Labrador. It was powered by a 2-cylinder engine which I used for a wood splitter. Few people would have realized it was for a tow line. It was mounted on a toboggan for portability. The trails ran from the road, which is still there, down to the lake. I have a picture of friends there with her husband. They were in Austria. When the hill in Elliot Lake was being developed, the club relocated to here. I didn't start at Mount Dufour until the winter of 1966. Prior to that, I inherited a pair of skis from my brother Bob. The skis were wooden with the old touring bindings, a combination for downhill cross country. My next door neighbor and I cleared a short trail from the top of the rock where Frank Crescent is now, down into the gully. And we sort of taught ourselves by making short ski runs and turning at the bottom. My neighbor, John Isaac, was an avid skier and encouraged me to join the LA Ski Club. At that time, the ski club occupied the left side of the hill, Idiots, and was a separate entity from the right side, Maine, which was operated by a group of men, Clifford Perry, Wilfred Bullier, Mr. Bullard, Henry Allard, Ernie Dufour, and Art Dang, and others. They had cleared from top to bottom, including Danes Peak, which few people skied because it involved a bit of a climb. A rope tow, which ran from top to bottom, hauled skiers to the top. A tow line is still visible. Parts of it can be skied. There was no grilling at this time. The skiers packed the hill by sidestepping up the hill and made lots of grumbling. On the ski trip club side, there was a short roto which ran up to the first landing. This was the first part of the hill skiable when the snow came. A lot of people sidestepped further up the hill before beginning their run. There was a small warming hut at the bottom of the run. There was also night skiing tournaments a week. I believe the very supply generator. Reverend Bill Stadnick and his wife Doreen ran the ski school. It was here I refined my skills, and we started sidestepping up the hill. I didn't use the roto until the fourth lesson. Doreen Stadnick held classes during the week for ladies. If we wanted to use the rest of the hill, we had to buy a ticket. The ski school was very popular and was instrumental in getting many people to join the club, which it still is today. Club meetings were held here monthly during the ski season and were generally well attended. I became active and served on various committees. When I joined the club, Reverend Bill Stadnick was the president and John Isaac was the treasurer. I don't remember any other officers. The ski patrol was run by Bruno Augustine, Jake Seidel, and Reverend Stadnick. I don't remember any of the other patrollers. Leg injuries were very common because the skis on ungroomed runs, sometimes in very deep snow. On or around, that's me by the way, on or around 1960, the first guy to do a front flip on Mount Dufour. Around 1968, the owners of the main hill decided to sell the assets. I don't remember the terms, but the Elliot Lake Ski Club took over the hill. Assets consisted of the rope tow, chalet, and improvements. It was decided to retain the name Mount Dufour in honor of the man who did so much to bring skiing to Elliot Lake. At this time, there was no hydropower to the hill. Ontario had to install a pole and transformer partway up the hill. On the left side of the hill, sometimes someone donated a small shed, and one of the mines donated a 220-volt transformer. Joe Hammond Sr. and I made the necessary connections and hydro and energized the circuit. The lights for night skiing were the first to utilize the power. Later, a small lift was converted to electricity, and a line was run to provide power to the chalet. There was lighting, power outlets, and a snack bar. The snack bar was operated by volunteer ladies, probably parents of junior skiers. They sold homemade soup, chips, soft drinks, and we were able to install electric heaters and retire the wood stove, which was probably a hazard. There was no bar, of course, but some people carried wine skins, of course they did, with their favorite red wine. I carried a small quantity of scotch in an empty kale pectate bottle. That was George saying. The club obtained an old used Bombardier Mustang tractor. That's what it was. The one I was referring to from Wilderness Lodge. With the view of using it to pull a roller to groom the hill. It could barely get up the first landing. It was very useful for doing maintenance, working in off season. It was very useful when we installed a T-bar as well for hauling cement and gravel up the hill. The old rope tow was still in use to carry skiers to the top of the hill. It was still powered by an old Ford engine, and maintaining the rope was a big job because the rope stretched. We had to cut it, remove a section, resplice it, back and forth, back and forth. We had to remove the rope and store it in a secure spot to prevent damage by vandals. The rope tow had been replaced. The rope tow had to be replaced every 3 to 4 years. That's quite a bit. Our existing cable on that chairlift is still original, 38 years, I think it is. This was a major expense to budget for. Until we got the Bombardier, it was labor intensive. It was very labor intensive to haul the rope up the hill to the bull wheel loop and around back and pull it down the hill. This was usually accomplished with the assistance of young skiers. It was decided to bring the starting point back closer to the chalet and the drive unit as well. With the tow on the extreme right of the hill, we didn't have access to the whole hill. To ski Dane's Peak, or the run now called Idiots, it was necessary to climb approximately 50 vertical feet. Not a lot of skiers willing to do that. So we decided to relocate the rope tow to the center of the hill. The center where the present chairlift is located, but it had never been cleared. With the help of the Make Work program available from one of the ministries, we were able to get a tow path cleared. Instead of relocating the rope tow, we decided to look into installing a T-bar. They never did put that rope tow there. They were going to, but it never happened. Jan Kepka from Broward, Quebec had a light T-bar that was manufactured by Plum. I seem to remember the price was less than $20,000, but we had to install it. So the mines helped out with that. Club members made interest-free loans to the club, which I think we still owe them. There's a whole bunch. We owe $100, $200 to a whole bunch of people. I'm finding all this here. You want your money back? There's lots of interest on that. There was, well, interest-free loans, of course, hence the term, right? The loans were to be repaid in 5 years. Only 2 people ever asked for their money. The lift was installed with the generous assistance of the mines, who fabricated the towers and built the required cement forms, and many odds and ends required. Heinz Dinkel and friends surveyed the proposed lift line and created a profile of the hill necessary. Can you stop for a second?
Yeah.
Go back to that one. Okay, so this is the top of Indians. The A-frame is still there for the T-bar. The chalet, if you remember, took 2 or 3 years to finish. Sorry, you know like that?
Yeah.
Took a couple of years. They got the foundation done, and they ran out of time and money, and they just put a floor over top of it, and we ran it out of the basement. We came out the back door. This was just a floor, this was the roof. Now, that building there is about where the first aid building is now. It's just a house that got relocated here. That was used as a warming little chalet with a wood stove in it and oil furnace. Yeah, I remember that, and then it got pulled up. It was very unsafe. Falling apart, no floor in it, it was bad. Jeff Knight design work and requirements such as the A-frame building to house the electrical equipment. Jan Ketka came and spliced the cable that we had strung along towers and helped us with adjustments to fine-tune the system. After the ministry inspected the tow, it was ready to haul skiers up the hill. Unfortunately, that winter we had very little snow, so we only had a few days that we could ski from the top. Fortunately, we could get off the first landing and the second landing. The solution to the years when snow conditions were marginal was to install snowmaking. Nobody in the club was knowledgeable about the process except in general terms. Most of the systems we observed on ski trips to use compressors, air to atomize the water, and to blow it out on the hill. Norris Ski Hill in Sudbury. Norris Ski Hill was behind, when you go down 69, if you look to your right-hand side, that's where Norris Ski Hill was. It's where the OBP station is down there. Does that follow you? Gave us 6 of their old snow guns, and they're probably still around the back belt of the shops. They're probably buried in the ground right now. Jim Mayer, these are just these little older guns that you need a ton of air. Jim Mayer, who was one of the engineers, played one at the Algoma lab, and I experimented with one of them at Cork shop using the compressed air and water available at the mines. We came to the conclusion that these were feasible because of the quantity of compressed air needed. We learned that a company that's downstairs in Michigan had 4 used fan jet guns mounted on trailers for sale. There's a story here. The manager of Cork Mine purchased them under the guise of ventilation fans. Tried to hide it, if you want to call it that. The mines bought 4 guns for us at $30,000. Unfortunately, an auditor controller came into the mines and learned about it, and the club had to reimburse reality. I remember that. We had to scramble to find $30,000. We didn't have that money back then. I remember signing paperwork to that, myself and George and somebody else. Luckily, I stumbled upon 2 old high-pressure water pumps in the salvage yard at Cork. They had been used as a boiler feed pump at North Mine. That pump and motor are still in use today, probably 75 years old. And we had it overhauled once, to my knowledge, and still working. The old technology, heavy metal, doesn't fall apart. I located a suitable motor in Sudbury, and the crew at Cork Mine shop under Bob Bruneau, remember the Bruneaus? Connected in the line to pump the motor. We obtained a control panel from the town that was surplus to their needs. We poured a cement pad, installed a pump, smoke compressor, purchased an electric cement builder. Pipes secured to the mines, installed pumps up the hill, and piping, installed forage water, and moved around the snowmass. When the temperature reached -5 degrees, we began to make snow. Nobody had a clue what we were doing. Nobody had any experience making snow, so you can imagine our trial and error efforts. We did, however, make acceptable snow. Describing our efforts would take several chapters. However, we were able to ski that season considerably earlier. We have a logbook from the snowmaking crew days that is a character story. Bill Flintoff is in there, so just imagine that. We realized that we needed something to move snow around as it was deposited more or less in piles. We had no machine to move the snow around. We had a red machine that basically packed it down. To that end, we obtained a used Bombardier snow dozer. And again, picture right behind me, that yellow machine is very similar to the first machine we had. And we performed a good base. Natural snow on top, we had a pretty good skiing surface. For a couple of seasons, we groomed the hill with a screen roller, pulled behind the Bombardier truck. We then obtained a used piston bully, which made grooming a lot easier. This is one of the first piston bullies with a tiller on the back. We've had 3 of them now. We've still got 2. I'm not sure the exact year, but I think Helen Peaker was president, and we decided that the old blue chalet was no longer suited for our needs, so we decided to look into alternatives. 2 young engineers who were working on Algoma expansion volunteered to look into possible alternatives. Unfortunately, I don't remember their names. I think one was named Richard. They found a company called Finlog Log Buildings, and I have all those documents here of the original log and even the drawings that were here. That was supposed to be a 3rd floor. There's supposed to be another floor on top of this with a members only lounge, which would be so cool to have. and an actual a caretaker. There's supposed to be somebody living here to take care of the place. So with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen, the whole 9 years. I never went that far. The company gave us a quote, we felt we could afford it, so it was decided to go ahead with the project. First step was to demolish the old building. I think you've seen pictures of that already. We managed to salvage a lot of the materials, mainly the glass and the plywood, with the help of a D9 bulldozer bore from Algoma. I leveled the site and excavated down to the level where we poured a floor. Mr. Rudy Burnett, and I was involved in this, 14 years old, I'm sure, laid out the plumbing and poured the floor using ready mix with the help of Cliff Ferry's crane. Shell Lundy was able to borrow the forms from his employer, which was County Contracting Lobeck. Do you guys remember Lawrence Beckett? No. Some of you do. So that's where that came from. We installed the flooring and covered it with plastic film. The Finlog company built the log structure, but we didn't realize that the contract did not include the roof. So that's one of the reasons why it never went on the first year beyond the basement and the floor. We operated out of the basement that year. I don't remember anyone complaining. We secured 3 large, long laminated beams, which are right over your head still right now, from Blacknor Mill, which had been demolished. We installed them in place, again, helped Cliff Ferry's crane. So even Cliff was still helping out in this late 70s and early 80s. Over the summer, we were able to get the roof installed and a septic system installed, which has now been replaced since. So a 45-year-old septic system just got replaced now this past summer. The new structure contained a snack bar, wet bar, and fireplace fronted on both sides. Like, we had no washrooms and no running water until 1979. All that time that we were here, nothing. Outhouses. Last but not least, we had indoor plumbing. When the mines went through a large expansion in the 80s, there was a large influx of workers, which included young families. This also included a lot of skiers. The mining companies were willing to spend money to attract workers to Lake Lake. Our T-bar was no longer adequate. We looked at options, including 2 double chairlifts. One would be installed in place of the T-bar and one at the top terminal of the old rope tow. Our president at the time, Claude Johnson, he was able to get a favorable quote on a new quad chair from a company in South Ontario called Blue Mountain Lifts. He approached mining companies and secured their promise of assistance. It was decided to go ahead with the project. I don't know the details of the financing, but it didn't put a big burden on the club. It did. I'll get into that later. That chairlift was a very big project and in every way, physically, financially, the whole 9 yards. The club was now in strong footing. George kind of backed away from the hill during that time. He was pulling back quite a bit and not so much involved. The club voted to give Jackie and I, George's wife Jackie, a lifetime honorary membership. We took advantage of this until we were unable to ski. The day-to-day operations of the club was now run by Rick and Dave Burnett. Cheers to Rick. Who no longer, and I no longer take part in the executive of the club. Many improvements have occurred since then. The snowmaking capabilities have greatly improved. Grooming is much improved, and the upgraded piston bullies and a board park much improved, much appreciated by the boarders. It has been a great pleasure for my family and me to be associated with the Elliot Ski Club. The skiing fraternity are a great group and will go to great lengths to preserve our club, and that's so true. I remember approaching the local reeve, Roger Taylor. Yeah, we were the township. I remember this as well, for funds to help with one of our projects. And his response was, skiing is a rich man's sport and they can look after themselves. That's the analogy, right? That's the anyhow. And he said, I guess it is. So written by George Palm, 2324. Where are we now? We're going to see. That's me again. First of all, I did not take these pictures. These are out of the collection of the Pecor albums. There's Rick. Have we run through these already or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rick, that's Rick right at top of the hill, the T-bar. Bob Sterling, look at that. That's the family trail going around the corner. Jan Morrison, do you guys remember Jan Morrison? That's the top, Bob Sterling again. Look at the building, the get-off area. No heat, no windows. One of the Moffat boys, I forget his name, Bob maybe? Helen Pecor. The Boyne crest on her jacket.
That's that over.
I think that's it.
Oh, yeah.
We did that already. Okay.
10 more needs to go.
10 more?
Yeah.
I thought we did. Okay. See the top, the T-bar there, the post right there? Yeah. That's Dean's Peak, or yeah, Dean's Peak, yeah, right hand side. The original, there's Bo Johnson up in the middle up there in that top picture. Again, showing this building we operated out of. It was just the floor and cement, and we ran out of the back door. I remember that for a whole year because we just ran out of time. Original signing officers when we became incorporated in 1978. I have that document right here. So we have Jan Hippias, Pecor, Culver, Shel Lundy, Bob Sterling, George Palm, Barry Wan. Are the Wans here? Which Andrew? I'm not sure who that is. But I think we owe you $100 for your family. So, Rich, again, so this campaign of putting this chalet together, there are documents. They basically went to the mines. They got every supplier. This is a check that we got from Clancy Morris, Charlie Flintoff. Look at that. Clancy Morris Investments, Ford dealership in 1979. They had a massive campaign to raise funds for the chalet together. In 1970, we got $50. There's tons of this. They took copies of all this stuff. Tons and tons of copies of everything. All the money, some are rejects, of course, but every mine supplier you can think of, weren't even from like Southern Ontario, the States, they sent them to everybody. And they raised some money. Pecor and Company. Some of these names I've attention class of this, yeah, letter to Clancy Morris. Built in a ski chalet, and he gives $50. Again, Mike Bond here. That guy, you know who that is? Dave Burnett. Middle one, can't quite tell. No, Andy Sisson, sorry, Jake Sisson, Andy Sisson. And photos by Jerry Pujo when he was freelancing for the Standard. Mike Bond, Don Pecor. They raced a lot. They went to Italy for training, very heavy into that in 77. So yeah, there's a letters patent that I mentioned before. I have the complete original one right here. Again, more legible, more writing. Ricky and Andy Ricky from Denison Mines was actually a director at the time. This was to get incorporated. The ski area was never organized at the time. Like a nonprofit or a corporation needed to be. So it was 78 when we officially became Mount Dufour legally with letters patent. Downstairs in the basement, again, Connie, he was holding. right? Right, Connie's here, right? Connie Augustine comes back. Ralph Sanders, I believe it is, he was involved with part of the, and some other gentlemen. Again, I was about, 18, 19, 20 years old this time, and I was probably spending more time with the others. We had a summer work project. Kim Kilt, Dave Burnett, Luke Bernard, Mansfield, Judy Mansfield, the Mansfield family, right? What's the guy at the top? Missing one here. Dave Burnett. Kim Kilt, Mike's up there, yeah. Oh, God. Again, that's me again. Emmett Raftery, remember the Rafteries? Again, he was a photographer from Standard back in the day. And I don't know, I was fooling around, I was trying to attract girls or something, but I was still single, so look at me now. An old mountain for a ski patch, 1979, if you go back to that one, you can. The season rates for 1979-80. So a family with one child was $130. 3 children, 150. The day ticket for one day was $5 and $8. Yeah. That's the okay. So now we'll see bargains. Yeah. This patch we had. I'm not sure what that one where that came from, but it's all this in our house somewhere. Balls back there. The balls there, yeah. That would be the family trail, I believe, but not as wide as it is now.